Hello, everyone. Today, let's delve into a novel brimming with fantasy and family entanglements. The story commences with incredible appeal. Protagonist Celia was once surrounded by her family's warmth and affection. However, fate took a swift turn. Filled with hope for the future and a desire to bring glory to her family, she embarked on the Watcher test journey. With tenacity and remarkable prowess, she succeeded and became an elite watcher who could judge Alpha's standings. Chapter 1. Family Ties 6 months in the future. Half a year had passed since Celia last experienced the warmth of a genuine, loving family. That pivotal moment occurred just before she departed for the Watcher test, leaving behind the familiar scent of pine and earth that permeated her pack's territory. A mere month later, she returned, her determined spirit having carried her through the grueling trials. The news of her success sent shockwaves through her pack, their disbelief palpable in the air. No one had anticipated Celia's triumph. How could this resilient young woman, once overlooked, now possess the authority to judge alphas and potentially strip them of their positions? She had become one of the elite few who answered directly to His Highness, the Werewolf King, a figure of immense power and influence in their world. Celia's mother, a master of deception, had encouraged her to take the test, her words dripping with false sweetness. It was all a ploy. It was all a ploy. A calculated move to clear the path for Celia's ambitious younger sister to claim her mate and the coveted position of Luna. They had banked on the traditional 6-month absence, ample time for their treacherous plan to unfold. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The Academy, in an unprecedented move, had condensed the training and testing period to a single month. Celia's early return coincided with her sister's Luna ceremony. The betrayal lay bare before her eyes. The pain of her family's duplicity cut deeper than the loss of her unfaithful mate. With a heavy heart, Celia had fled her pack's territory, vowing never to return. The betrayal of her family, particularly her manipulative mother and conniving sister, had left scars that ran deeper than any physical wound. Now, more than 6 months later, at a time when she should have been returning home under different circumstances, Celia found herself in an entirely unexpected position. She stood arm in arm with the Werewolf King himself, his powerful presence a stark contrast to her own quiet strength. They waited before the ornate doors of the royal palace's ballroom, anticipation building as they prepared to be announced. Despite the grandeur of her surroundings and the prestigious company she now kept, Celia's heart raced at the prospect of facing her parents once more. The parents she had sworn never to see again now stood on the other side of those massive doors, unaware of the transformed woman their daughter had become. Present-time sister. A loud shout and the door bursting open were enough to wake up the heaviest of sleepers. For someone like Celia, who was always mindful of her surroundings, even more so. It was still early morning, but as always Celia did not have the luxury of sleeping in. Ever since she turned 12 years old, it had been her task to make breakfast and do the miscellaneous jobs around the house. Her mother had started making her do small chores at first. Easy ones, until it escalated. Now, practically, she was the one doing the jobs, while her mother would assist on rare occasions. It was not even necessary for her mother to tell her what to do anymore. It was already the norm that she had to do the chores. It will be beneficial for you once you start your own family. You have to start learning early your way around the house. Otherwise, people would laugh at me, saying I do not know how to educate my daughter properly. This was the explanation her mother gave her at that time, and even though her mother was mostly cold towards her, she accepted it without any resentment. She felt her mother knew best, but now 10 years later, she was not so sure her mother did truly have her best interest at heart. How could she not be sure? Well, her younger sister was only 2 years younger than her, but she would still come in her room demanding breakfast. If for some reason, she would be late in preparing it. Her younger sister, now at the age of 20, had never in her life held a broom, washed her clothes, cleaned her room, cooked her own food, or at least helped her set the table. Even folding her own clothes was something foreign to her. The only instances when she held the cutlery in her hands were when she was eating. She had never washed at least those she used herself, or even removed them from the table after eating, not to mention the ones her family used. Her mother did not explain the difference in treatment to her directly, but would always say to her sister that she was destined to become a Luna, so there was no point in learning to do such things when others would certainly do them for her. The first time she heard it, she felt a pang in her heart. In her mother's opinion, it meant that her sister was better than she was. It did not bother her that her mother had not considered her Luna material. She never wanted to become a Luna. The restrictions that came with being the alpha's mate did not appeal to her in the slightest. Far from it, actually. Her dream was nothing close to being a Luna. It hurt only because she had wanted to feel the same level of care her mother felt for her sister directed to her also. She would have been satisfied with even a quarter of the level of care her sister received from her mother. But that was the opinion of her old self. Of the person who was 14 years old and saw that her mother had no inclination in starting to educate her younger sister as well in the art of a housewife. Well, regardless of how she felt at that time, she never said a word to her mother. She had always been the taciturn and serious type. Her peers would often not interact with her at all, and the grown-ups felt she was too mature for her young age. She almost never smiled, and could not find it in her to say flattery words her sister would say. When her sister would be all sweet and flatter the grown-ups, it looked very cute, but she felt that if she did it, it would be creepy. Moreover, unlike herself at all. That was the main reason she thought it was probably her fault that she was not too close to her mother. Or her family, better said. But she could not help it. She was a person of few words, and, as the years went on, she closed herself even more. Not that she would ever complain. This was her family, and, even though they had not shown her that much love, she was also not ignored, treated badly. She felt them not too close to her, but not far as well. And she did love them, even if she did not verbalize it, and only showed it through her actions. The best proof was that, even though she felt horrible at the moment, she still forced herself up from bed to prepare breakfast for the lovely girl, who was pouting at her with her arms crossed. The petite girl in front of her, with her curly long blonde hair, small face, beautiful blue eyes and pink small lips, waited impatiently, the consistent tapping of her foot being a clear evidence of this. "I am up. Sorry. I did not feel well and did not manage to get breakfast started yet. What do you want to eat?" Celia asked her, while she was already tying her hair up in a ponytail and checking the wardrobe for a change of home clothes. "I want a fruit salad, pancakes, a warm cocoa and jam." The girl paused momentarily, thinking what else to eat. "Oh, and also. Could you make some cupcakes? I brought some to the picnic with my friends last time and they loved them. You know, the ones decorated with fondant flowers." She finally stated what she wanted, turned around and went to her room, not bothering to wait for her sister to agree to her request. Celia loved her little sister, so there was no need for Brianna to beg for a request. The latter only had to state it, and she would do it. Looking at the back of the beautiful young woman who was hurrying away, Celia shook her head amused, with the corner of her mouth tugging up a small and appetible smile, as she selected her clothes, checking for some comfortable ones. She frowned when another cramp hit her abdomen. Her face was already full of sweat beads since the cramp started. Now even more water droplets appeared on her small face. She clutched the clothes in her hands and waited for it to pass, barely managing to move her feet towards the corner of the bed to sit for a while. "I am sorry, Celia. I am trying to fix it, but it seems that I cannot heal the pain in your abdomen." Her wolf, Crescent, said, worried of the pains that she strangely could not stop. "Maybe we should." Crescent barely started to say another solution, before Celia interrupted her. "It's all right, I can manage. Perhaps the pain will go away when I move around." She knew her solution, but felt it was not that big of a pain and would most likely subside on its own. It was better to just bear the pain until it went away itself, rather than risk someone finding out about her. The risk was not worth it. And anyway, she was resilient enough. The only problem was that the pain was unusual, as she had no prior health problems. Not that she ever had any. She had not suffered from even a cold since she was born. Her wolf wanted to continue to reason with her, but they had respected each other since they first shifted at the age of 13. If one needed help, she was never polite. She only had to state what she wanted, and it would be done. It was a mutual understanding between them, even without the use of words. If Celia wanted something, Crescent knew that she would say it, without the need to be convinced. The cramps indeed passed after a little while, and without another minute's rest, she got dressed before making her way downstairs. "Celia, you are finally up," her mother stated sternly, almost losing all her patience. "Yes. I am sorry. I will get breakfast started," she apologized, while she was quickly tying the apron on her waist before looking for the ingredients. "All right. Just hurry up. Daniel will be coming down soon. He is training early today. Also, don't forget to pack some lunch for him as well. I don't know how long the training lasts," her mother informed her, while she was taking her car keys out of her purse. "I will be gone for about 5 hours. I am having lunch with Abigail today, and I'll also do some shopping," she continued explaining, not asking in the slightest about the paleness on her daughter's face. Not that she had looked at her enough to notice it. Celia nodded in understanding, and turned around to put the pancake mix in the batter. She nimbly managed to set the table, place the food on it, and arrange the containers with the beautifully decorated cupcakes for her sister and lunch for her brother. As if on cue, both her brother and sister descended the stairs, just as she was finishing the chores. They sat at the table like they normally would, ate their meal and quickly left after thanking her for the breakfast and grabbing their containers. Outside the door, her brother took a deep breath of air as he was walking to his car. "Why are you so relieved? Don't tell me that it is still awkward for you, that you don't help her set the table or clean after eating." Brianna chuckled, teasing her younger brother, a young 18-year-old male with slightly curled wavy black hair, brown eyes and a sharp handsome face. Turned a bit around to look at Brianna. A small frown nestled between his eyebrows. "And you don't feel it's awkward? She does more things for you than for me. She listens to every request you make." Did you not even see her pale face? She was clearly feeling ill, but she still woke up and made breakfast. He was shocked and outraged by his sister. The latter did not even flinch or realize her mistakes, even when he directly pointed them out to her, as he could see it in her eyes. "Come on. She loves us and she also loves to do the chores around the house. It's not like I made her do them. Not to mention, I did not see you try to help her. Mr. Self-Righteous." She giggled at him unbothered. Who was he to criticize her actions? Brianna had never stopped to think twice about her actions. Her mother often told her that she was destined for greatness and she would be a great Luna in the future. This fact was also proven by her wolf's rank, a rank perfectly suited for a Luna. So how could a person who would become a leader do chores around the house? She felt her brother was quite funny. Daniel did not bother to correct her. Brianna was always arrogant, and the only words she would listen to were their mother's words. But that was only because her mother only told her things boosting her confidence. He thought. As for his other sister, Celia, she was always more like a mother to them than their mother was. His mother was always accompanying the pack's Luna. Abigail, if she was not accompanying the Luna, then she was away shopping. Ever since Celia had grown up, she took over most of the chores. He was only about 8 years old when his sister started caring for them. At first, when she did the tasks, he would try to help her, but his sister felt he was too young and did not let him. Then, as he grew up, his mother said that he should not interfere with her way of teaching each child, so did not let him help her. As such, he only did things that went unnoticed by his mother, or things that he could say he had other reasons for wanting to do by himself. He cleaned his own room, reasoning that he was a guy and did not want a girl snooping around. He would change the light bulbs if he was the one to discover them first, or other such things he thought were more fit for men rather than women. He did his laundry at the training center and tried to not leave a mess in other rooms, other than his personal room. Basically, he cared for his own needs himself, other than food, which he could not find a reason to do. Brianna was the complete opposite. She would often leave a mess in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. Even her own bedroom would be left neglected, until it would get too untidy. Then she would just leave her bedroom door open when it got too unorganized, as if for her mother to see her mess and tell Celia to clean it up, or for Celia herself to notice it and clean. Her behavior was indeed instigated by her mother, but she reveled in the feeling of pampering, and never even thought to support and help her sister. Honestly, he felt Celia should be more outspoken and start to deny their requests, but she never did, and he did not know if it was his business to interfere in their relationship. His older sister did not talk much, so he had tried to hint to her several times that it would be all right for her to express her feelings more. But Celia never bothered to change the way she handled her situation or the other members of her family. She was a loving person, and he could feel her love for them. He could only hope that perhaps when she met her mate, things would be different, as she would leave the house and move in with him. As excellent and perfect as she was, he was certain her mate would love her unconditionally. As for his other sister, he had always heard the gibberish his mother said about her bright fate, and frankly, he thought it was utter nonsense. If someone as arrogant as his sister would become a Luna of a pack, then the world was really upside down. The Luna should be the most prepared female of the pack. She had to be a sister, mother, and a friend for her pack members. She was the one balancing the link between the pack members and the alpha, the one who ensured that the alpha maintained his anger and ferocity at an acceptable level. If his sister was capable of that, she wouldn't still act as bratty and as arrogant as she was these days, and would have compassion and care for her older sister. His honest and objective opinion was that the pack that made Brianna its Luna would certainly meet its downfall. Chapter 2. Fit to be the Luna. On the other side of the door, the busy bee had no idea of her siblings' verbal exchanges. Having cleaned the leftovers from breakfast, Celia quickly made her way to her room. The pain had subsided somewhat, and she wanted to finish the dress she was working on. The second best thing she liked to do since childhood was designing clothes. In fact, most of her and her sister's dresses were made by her own hands. Her brother preferred buying his clothes. Only for his birthday would she make him a shirt or a pair of pants. As for her mother, she preferred buying branded clothes, and her dad wore what her mother bought him. After cutting and stitching for more than 2 hours, she stretched her hands and lightly tapped her shoulders, massaging, glad she had finally managed to complete her sister's dress. The pink mermaid dress, with a high slit on the side from the ankle to above the thigh, was an express request from Brianna, who had insisted on this particular design. She had tried to reason with her sister that such a dress did not fit her petite size, but the latter did not want to hear it at all. She had insisted on this particular type of dress, reasoning that she had to be the most astounding of all. Every year at the summer ball, unmated wolves from the pack had a shot at finding their mates, and this year was particularly special, as the young heir to the alpha position would come home and would also participate. As was the custom, alpha heirs from every pack would leave their homes at 10 years of age and would go for training until the age of 25. Werewolves had particular long lives, with the minimum life expectancy being 2 years old. They aged normally until they reached the age of 25 to 30. Then their aging would slow down, only to resume in the later part of their life, and as they matured, they would usually find their mates, with the only exception to this rule being the current king of the werewolves, who for some unknown reason was without a mate even though he was already 100 years old. So Ray Ann, the heir of their home pack, would most likely find his mate as well. The future alpha's mate could not possibly be another woman other than Brianna. This was Brianna's firm conviction, as she felt it was her destiny, but even then she still wanted to impress him with her looks and gorgeous style. Taking another glance at the dress, to assure she hadn't missed any pins in it, Celia gently hanged it, making sure it did not get any wrinkles. Only after this did she start making her own dress. She was not particularly interested in going to the ball, but unfortunately participation was compulsorily. Luckily, Her dress was less complicated than her sister's, so it took only a day to make, as opposed to the mermaid gown which had taken her for days. Not that she could make it more elaborate, even if she wanted to. The time it took for the everyday chores and Briette's dress had her swamped with never-ending work. Moreover, the ball was fast approaching as well. Well, regardless of the time, she did not like to stand out anyway, so it did not bother her in the slightest. The off-shoulder white maxi dress, which was tied around the waist, where it with a black bow before spreading wavy to the floor, was perfect for her taste. Some more hours later, having finally finished sewing her own dress, she hurriedly tried it on and went in front of the mirror to check if other fittings were necessary. Fortunately, the dress fit perfectly, her tall stature and narrow waist, making the long gown just right for her type of body. Satisfied with her work, she changed out of it and placed it on a hanger next to her sister's. Barely had she hung the dress when an excruciating pang stabbed her heart, and shortly after her abdomen. It hurt a lot, more so than the other times, causing her to feel as though her heart was getting ripped out of her chest. She could only collapse on the floor when the pain became unbearable, scrunching her face as beads of sweat started to appear on the small head. She was confused at the repeated bursts of pain, not understanding their cause. Crescent apologized again. She was also feeling the pain with the same intensity, but physically there was nothing wrong with their body. Celia knew that as a werewolf she was very resilient to pain, and even if she was not, her fast healing abilities should have resolved the issue if she truly had a health problem before. So the repeated cramps and aches were abnormal. Not to mention, she knew for a fact that she was stronger than most werewolves, so her healing and resilience were even better. It was not because she felt confident in her strength or arrogant because of it. By being the daughter of the current beta. No, the reason was simply because of the common knowledge that higher-ranked werewolves would shift much earlier than normal-ranked ones. So it was believed that the sooner a werewolf changed, the stronger it would be. And the proof of this was that alphas were the earliest to undergo the change. They would shift for the first time at about 17 to 18 years old. Betas and Gamma S would normally shift at the age of 20 to 21 for the first time. Age 22 to 23 was common for normal pack members and 24 and older for Umgeza. In fact, her sister had just managed to shift for the first time only a couple of months ago, at the perfect age for a Luna. The only known exception to the limit of 17 years old was the current king of all werewolves, who was known to have shifted for the first time at the age of 14. So according to the common knowledge, her beta heritage should have made her able to shift at the minimum age of 20, but as she shifted for the first time at age 13, and it was unknown for anyone to shift so early, she assumed that it could only be for one of the two following reasons. 1, it was because she was stronger than most werewolves. Or 2, the reason she was first inclined to believe. It was only an anomaly and it meant nothing more than that. In fact, even the shift itself felt like an anomaly, as she felt as though she shifted twice before returning to the human form. She felt her bones cracking and rearranging to times. So in light of those facts, she kept her shift a secret and did not notify anyone about it. Who would want to be labeled as an anomaly? Not to mention, she was used to keeping to herself, and would never confide in anyone. As luck would have it, she was alone in the woods gathering berries to make jam when the pain of the shift hit her, so no one was around at that time to know about it. It took almost 5 hours for the shift to complete, but it was worth it. Every werewolf that completed their first shift would immediately change for the better. Sight, hearing, smell, all of the senses would heighten. Strength, agility, and regeneration would become unreal. But what puzzled her most was that she retained 100% of these qualities even after shifting back to a human. She was especially intrigued about this when she learned in school that, when in human form, a werewolf usually retained only about a quarter to a half of the wolf form's senses and strengths. That was the reason why the tracker and patrol werewolves would only be in wolf form on the job. Strangely, she did not feel any difference between the wolf form and the human one for the most part. But even then, she was still inclined to think it was only an anomaly. That was what she thought until one day when, as she went to the forest for a run, she was surrounded by 3 rogues that had breached the borders. At the young age of 14, she was terrified in the midst of the savage and mad creatures that she could hardly identify as werewolves. Their unfocused eyes, their sharp fangs that protruded from their mouths, with saliva that flowed uncontrollably from it, their clawed hands. Their entire appearance made them seem more like creatures from horror stories, rather than werewolves. She was just a child at that time, and, as she was thinking about what to do, her wolf took control of her body for the first time. The human side of her being, Celia, exchanged places with the wolf from inside her mind, becoming only a spectator, watching then how, without even shifting, her body swiftly ripped the 3 rogues to shreds. She realized her assumption of being an anomaly was wrong. She was indeed stronger than a normal werewolf, but for what purpose she did not know. Fortunately, she did not need to mask her scent in that place to keep her secret. Just when she was panicking on what to answer the patrol werewolves, who would likely come running to seek the intruders, a witch flew by. The witch had a bubbly personality and, without even asking her what happened, cast a spell to remove her presence from the surroundings. Clarissa never asked her anything more than she wished to let her know, so she still remained her friend after all these years. Even at the moment, they regularly exchanged letters, and was the only one who knew of her strength. As she was lost in her thoughts, her hazy mind suddenly became clear when she felt another sting in her heart. Before it completely subsided, she was aware that the only kind of pain to keep on repeating to a werewolf without an actual cause was phantom pain. There was no other answer for the unfounded ache, but still she was reluctant to think it was phantom pain. Phantom pain only occurred to werewolves that had met their mates, and one of them denied the bond, mating with others. The pain would be inflicted on the cheated partner each time his or her mate had intimate contact with another werewolf. Even a kiss was enough to trigger phantom pain. As Celia had not met her mate, it was impossible for her recurring ache to be this kind of pain. She sighed as the pain passed, and decided to not think of the matter anymore. Making the dresses, she had neglected her other chores, and it was already running late. It was almost time to start cooking for dinner. At the same time, Brianna was offering cupcakes to her friends. Everyone had a piece of the different arranged colorful sweets, but the girls kept on looking at their pieces, not daring to start eating them. They were so cutely decorated, and not one cupcake resembled the other. If they did not know her better, they would even assume she had bought them. As always, "You make the best desserts," one of her friends acknowledged, smiling, while she was smelling the fruity scents of her piece. "Thank you for the flattery, but they were very easy to make." "I cannot take your compliment," she bashfully replied, with a tinge of red dyeing her cheeks. "Oh, Hugh, always so modest. If the cakes were easy, then what about the dress you wear? You do not know how I envy your skills." Another girl pouted, finally daring to cut a small piece of her vanilla and blueberry cupcake. "Really, if I was your older sister, I would be ashamed. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to insult her, but to be outshined by the younger sister all the time, I would not be able to take it. Not to mention, you shifted at 20 years old, just fit to be the Luna." But she only managed to shift when she was 21 going on 22. Almost 2 years longer. Another girl added, already eating her piece and dying another one. Brianna did not bother to deny the insults, as she was enchanted by the words "just fit to be the Luna." If she had denied it, and said the one who baked all the delicious cakes was her sister, the one who did most of her school projects was also her, and the one who made her clothes, perhaps they would think her sister would be fit to be the Luna instead of her. It would be dreadful if that were to happen. Anyway, by being her younger sister, it was only right for her to accept the compliments in her sister's stead, because in the end, it was their own misunderstanding. She had never once specifically said she was the one who made all the things she was complimented on. This was why even now, when she was praised for the cupcakes, she only said that they were easy to make. As she pondered more, she was also certain her sister wouldn't find out. Celia was a recluse. Besides occasionally going to the woods, she never really went out. And even if she found out about it, Celia was her big sister, so she would support her. Another reason for not correcting them was that they were right about the part where they said she shifted first. Her big sister shifting at such a late age. The maximum rank for a mate she could only dream of would most likely be a beta or gamma to be more realistic. In that case, why shouldn't she be allowed to gather more qualities for herself? As they giggled on date, they caught sight of some men talking. One, in particular, seemed to be the handsomest man they had ever seen. They kept stealing glances of him with bright red faces. Brianna tried to appear the most collected of them, but she still had a tinge of red on her ears and cheeks, soon seeing him even closer. One of the girls recognized him as Rayan, the alpha Celia that had just returned to their pack. Now aware of that information, the girls sighed, resigning themselves. He would most likely be out of their leagues, so they kept nudging Brianna and teasing her. The highest-ranked werewolf female that was in the same age range as Rayan. She would surely be his mate. She felt shy under their teasing and their encouragement to go meet him, but she did not want to go to introduce herself. It was not appropriate. In reality, it was not her actual reason. She just felt she wanted him to see her at her best. With the dress Celia made a fancy make-up on, with the glam of the ball, he would spot her as soon as he felt her scent, and declare in front of everyone she was his mate. It would certainly be more glamorous that way. Her cheeks were a pinkish red and her eyes glowed as she thought about that moment. Anyway, it was only a few more days until the ball. She could wait for the dreamlike encounter. Chapter 3. Meeting at the ball. Sister, it's beautiful. I look perfect. Appreciated happily Brianna, looking intently at her reflection in the mirror. The white dress with the black bow at the waist accentuated her curves, and it still seemed beautiful even though the hem of the dress was pinned in several places, as it was too long for her, and there wasn't enough time for it to be modified. Luckily, she had carefully asked around about the heir's preferences and found out that although he played around with a lot of women, he confided in his closest friends that he wished an innocent and honest girl for a Luna. The dress she had asked her sister to make had a low cut at the breasts and a high slit at the side, so it was not exactly a dress a pure girl would wear. She got scared realizing this, and immediately came to her sister to ask her to modify the dress. But just as she briskly opened the door to her sister's room, her eyes fell on the dress her sister had prepared for herself. Falling in love with the design and color, she immediately demanded it from Celia. It was a close call, she thought. She was about to make a fool out of herself, and Celia could have gained the attention of Ray and instead of her. See, Elias' dress was exactly a dress for an innocent and pure girl. She finally relaxed when her look was put together. The make-up and the hairdo fitted perfect with the dress. Her sister was a magician, she mused. Even if she would never recognize it in front of another person. Well, nothing else mattered anyway. She already avoided the trouble. Brianna thought happily, as she'd whirled around, appreciating herself. Celia kept looking at her sign. Her little sister had always been quite willful. She never listened to her advices about the dress, but she was too cute, so she could not refuse her when she wanted to swap the dresses. As long as Brianna was happy then. In the end, it was all right. And anyway, she really didn't wish to stand out at the ball, so it might be for the best to just choose a random casual one. Her mother soon knocked on the door, just in time to see her younger daughter at her best. You are too beautiful. Everything looks good on you. They say that clothes make a man stand out, but I think you are the one that makes the clothes shine. Tonight you are a true Luna. Diane exclaimed happily, not at all bothered with the fact that, in a way, her compliment was degrading her oldest daughter's effort. She kept on smiling, admiring her youngest daughter. Diane was a beta female, but she still had to cater to her Luna. Unfortunately, that had been the situation until now. But tonight it would all end, when her daughter would become the mate of the future alpha. The old alpha would have to step down and leave the pack house to ensure a smooth transfer of the rights and leadership power to the new alpha. if the old alpha and the new one still lived together. The pack members would be confused if there was a conflict between the two, not knowing to whose orders they should listen to. The new alpha should have complete submission from his pack members. So to avoid such situations, the old alpha would normally leave for the royal palace to assume the position of a royal guard. They would at most stick around for a year longer. Then they would only return once in a while, but would no longer participate in the pack's matters. As such, with the old couple leaving, her daughter becoming the new ruler, all would finally fall in its rightful place. The respect she would receive from being the mother of the Luna and the grandmother of the future alpha could not compare to being the beta female. After all, even the beta was in submission to his alpha. The only equal to an alpha was his mate. Unfortunately, Diane was failing to notice that only the Luna would be an equal to her alpha, not the Luna's family as well. "Mom, are the girls ready?" asked hurriedly Daniel, poking his head through the open door. He was the designated driver for the family tonight. His father was traveling for the time being, and he was the only man in the house. "Yes, Brianna is ready," replied immediately his mother. She did not notice the plural of the question. "Mom, I said girls. I can see she is dressed, but Celia is still in her own clothes." "Oh, right. Why are you still not dressed yet? We will be late," her mother asked, frowning, aggrieved that Celia was holding them back from leaving. "I could not help Brianna get ready while being dressed myself, and I also have to find another dress. The pink mermaid dress I made for her is too short for me," Celia explained calmly, unbothered by her mother's attitude. It was already a common occurrence to be blamed for something that she had not caused. "All right, find another dress for yourself. Anyway, the dress looks better on Brianna. Why did you not make it for her initially and prepared something else for yourself?" Diane sighed, not acknowledging her mistake, and continued, "What is done is done. We will go on ahead. Try to find something else. Perhaps you can find your mate tonight. You are a beta's daughter, so you could optimistically find another beta, or at least a gamma. Daniel will come back after sending us there to bring you also." At the ball, youths from other packs would also participate, so it was highly likely that Celia could find her mate. She hoped. Celia only nodded, and did not comment on her mother's words. After all these years, even if she did not agree with her mother, she never tried to contradict her. But in reality, she did not want to find her mate at all. She felt that to find a mate and settle down was not for her. She had already set her mind to only appear at the venue quickly, and then just hide in the garden or somewhere else. All her mother's attention would be on her sister, so she should be safe. Her dream had always been to become a watcher for the council. They were the warriors that ensured that the alpha of a pack did not overstep their boundaries. The individual packs could be considerate small states hidden from human sights, in forests from all around the world, but united under the rulership of the king. They each established their own rules, but those rules should be in accordance with the guideline of the central power represented by the king of all the packs. In fact, each alpha of a pack could be considered a high-ranking warrior in the army of the king. That was also why they left their homes at a young age for the royal palace for education and training, and would also return there when a new alpha was established. But because there were too many packs the king ruled, they could not be overseen so easily. So the council was created. It handled the education of the alphas. It ensured that the general laws were respected. It also enforced the law and issued punishments for the alphas that had not followed them. And the council's main agents, the ones who ensured and enforced the law, were the watchers at the orders of the 12 council men. She had heard many stories about the watchers and knew they were the best warriors, even more powerful than regular alphas. They were stern but fair people, and had saved many packs from unfair alphas. They were also the idols of all the Ongeza, the most ostracized members of a pack. Dreaming of becoming one herself, Celia had tried telling her mother of her dream, but the latter did not want to hear it. She argued that she shifted for the first time late, so her wolf was not strong enough to become a warrior. She had even laughed at it, calling it a childish dream. She was about to come clean with her mother at that moment and tell her that she had actually shifted earlier. She wouldn't tell her that she shifted as young as she actually did, but she thought of saying that she shifted a little after her 18th birthday. That was her plan at that time. But her words remained unsaid when her mother also reasoned that she would become a bad role model for her younger sister. What if her sister wanted to become a warrior also? Because of her. But before her current dream of becoming a watcher, she reflected on the possibility of becoming a designer for clothes. And her sister did indeed say that she also wished to become one as well. At that moment, her mother forbid her of ever mentioning other dreams to Brianna, and also denied her wish. At the end, Diane had even said she should stop speaking nonsense. She should only prepare to become a housewife as she was good at it. And it was also the most realistic option for her. Her mother's words did not demoralize her, but she reflected on them, and only accepted the part that she should not influence her sister. So as long as her sister found her mate, she probably would not insist on following in her footsteps, and she could openly strive for her own wishes. As much as she loved her sister, she wanted to follow her own dreams. Perhaps she would have luck tonight, and her sister would find her mate. With these thoughts in mind, she searched her closet until she found a white maxi dress. The dress was not exactly suitable for a ball. It was more of a summer dress, but she had no other formal dresses other than the one Brianna took, inlaid with a multitude of flowers at the lowest part of the hem, which rarefied as they went upwards towards the waist. The predominantly white dress was still the only one that could barely pass as formal attire. She speedily got dressed, only putting on the least bit of makeup, before tying a strand of her long black hair with a clip above her ear. There was not enough time to curl or straighten it, so the hair that had been put up in a messy bun until then looked only a little wavy as it reached below her waist. She looked in the mirror and did one last check, finishing just in time to hear the honk of the car. The ball was near their home, so in just half an hour her brother had already returned. She grabbed her purse, and with lightning speed she was already at the front door. She was alone at home. Otherwise she would have never used her real speed, because even though all of them were werewolves, they would not have been able to follow her movements, shocking them. She realized this fact after she went to the training center to bring lunch to her brother, and witnessed the training of the best warriors of the pack. Their movements were slow to her eyes. It felt like she could avoid any of their hits. Their strength could not compare to hers. It seemed as though she could easily crush them if she felt like it. Even their training could not compare to the training she did by herself in the woods. At first, she thought they were only joking around and restrained themselves during training, not using their top speed and strength to conserve them. But her brother had informed her that they indeed gave their best during training. When they had a casual conversation, she briskly stopped at the door, rearranging a bit the disheveled strands of hair before opening it, then hurried down the stairs slower this time, towards her brother's car. "Hey, you did not need to hurry. I was just letting you know I arrived. You can still prepare if you want. The ball has just begun," her brother said quickly. He looked at her and felt that his older sister was even more beautiful than his second older sister. Her brown eyes looked like chocolate that fitted well with her slightly tanned, flawless skin. Her nose was straight and pointy. Her lips were plump even without much lipstick on it. Her cheeks were rosy pink, and all those features fitted perfectly on her small face. She dressed modestly, and her hairdo was also not something special, but she could already compete equally with her sister that had a full make-up on her face, a complicated hairdo, and a proper ball dress. If Celia tried harder, no doubt about it, nobody would pay attention to Brianna if the two were in the same room. But she never tried to. "No, it is all right. Thank you. We can go," she assured him, slightly smiling. He nodded and did not insist, seeing her honest response. Quarter of an hour later, they arrived at the ball. She went inside the ballroom without her brother, as the latter remained outside to park the car. Walking through the door, she looked around a bit, but was not interested in checking the venue. Anyway, her only purpose was to find her mother, just so she could prove that she had arrived. then quickly exit and hide somewhere until it was time to go home. She scanned her surroundings and finally spotted her mother, but before she could move in her direction, a waiter bumped into her, spilling the last glass of wine he had on his tray straight onto her dress. Normally, with her reflexes she could avoid him, but the pain she kept experiencing these past few days at random times came again, hitting her hard. It left her breathless. As it messed with her senses, she ignored the pain as best she could, trying to stand on her feet and look for her mother. At this moment, her mother had already spotted Celia, so she just pointed to her dress, gesturing that she was going to clean it. Seeing the bright red on the white dress, her mother sighed and nodded. It was actually better than she expected, Celia thought. Now she even had a proper reason for skipping the ball. She quickly avoided the crowded places and went to the garden, where she found a bench in a more secluded place. Fortunately, the pain had already passed. It lasted for a shorter time compared to the other times when it would torture her for hours. Sometimes it was so severe, it woke her up in the middle of the night, even messing with her senses that usually were top-notch. The only problem was that, just now, the pain that hit her felt more intense than when it took longer for it to pass. She stayed some time sitting on the bench, while she admired the beautiful fountain, feeling the strangeness of the pain that came and went. She pondered if she should call Clarissa and ask the witch if she knew what the problem was. The main ability of her friend was healing, and she should be better at detecting the type of pain than her pack doctor. And even if she lost, she was afraid to visit the doctor to find the cause and the treatment. One of the main utensils used by a doctor to diagnose an orb called the seer. When a werewolf placed their hand on the crystal orb, the seer was capable of detecting the exact problem. But this ability came with a downside, as it also showed the power of the werewolf. What would a seer show in her case? Would it prove the anomaly she was? After all, though she had checked countless books, she had never heard anyone with a situation similar to hers. A situation in which in reality the shift at 13 years of age was the smaller problem. The other fact was even stranger. Inside her mind was even stranger. She sat for a few more minutes, but as she started to see other people walking in the part of the garden she was in, she had no choice but to start walking around to be able to avoid anyone who would come near. Walking around for more than half an hour, looking at the beautiful decorated garden and smelling the multitude of colored flowers, she heard someone stepping towards her. She had looked for an even more secluded place this time, so curious of who could have come. She turned around. Chapter 4. Change of plans. Celia, did you manage to clean your dress? Her mother asked, just as Celia turned around. But Diane, her mother, could clearly see that the wine stain was still there. She smiled at her daughter, which surprised the latter, as her mother did not smile at her, even when the house was spotless. Oh, you look how careless you were. This spot is impossible to remove. She sighed and continued, well, there is no way around it. I guess I will call your brother and tell him to take you home. You cannot walk around in this dress. Celia was truly surprised. Her mother did not even suggest changing her clothes and coming back, although the ball was not even halfway finished, but she did not question it further. It was what she wanted also. All right, I will wait for him in front of the yard, she affirmed, unbothered. No, I think it's better to go wait by his car. What if someone sees you like this? Diane quickly said. All right. Celia immediately agreed, and directly walked away. She did not think it was that big of a deal. It was only a pinkish violet hue that remained spotted on the fabric as the dress dried, blending a little with the flowers that decorated it. The dress did not look so awful that she had to hide, but if her mother felt embarrassed, then she would listen to her. Arriving to the parking lot, her brother was also dumbfounded that she was going home. In the past, his mother would have insisted for her to return because it would be disrespectful for them not to participate. Not to mention, it would be a pity if his sister did not find her mate. Are you sure you do not want to change and return with me? What if you could find your mate tonight? He asked, making sure she truly did not want to come back. It wasn't a problem for him to drive. Just walking around inside the ballroom. He should have found me by now by smell alone. Perhaps. He was not present. There is always next year, she replied, certain of her reasons. Because of her resolute answer, he no longer insisted. His sister knew he was not only asking politely. Well, she was a withdrawn person and did not like the crowd, so it was no wonder she refused to return to the ball. The following morning, as always, she set the breakfast table just as the members of her family descended. They ate in silence, which was weird. Not even one of the 4 people at the table had anything to recount from last night. Even if she did not find a mate at the ball, her sister should have, she thought. Her mother had been so certain of the future connection between the young alpha of their pack and Brianna, so she should be the mate of the alpha. The Luna, by now. So why wasn't anyone saying anything? Brianna's shift age was perfect for her to become a Luna. Perhaps she was just the mate of another alpha, and so she did not find him last night. She was interested about knowing what happened to her sister the previous night, but she knew that if something did happen, her sister would be jumping up and down by now and would have told her a million times about it already. But her sister was standing properly eating her breakfast, and she was not one to pry. She also did not want to hurt her sister's feelings by asking her. As they finished eating breakfast, Celia rose from her chair and started to remove the plates with leftovers to clean the table. But just as she was about to start cleaning, she was stopped by her mother, who appeared to have something to inform her of. Celia, I have been thinking about what you told me some time ago. You know about which? About the training for the Watcher initiation. And I feel that you are right. Diane sighed, apologetic, her face full of regret. I know it's been hard on you all these years. I have been stricter with you than your sister and brother, but I felt that you, being the oldest, should be more mature. It was not right. I know. So I have been reflecting on it. She stopped for a moment, observing Celia's emotions. As always, her daughter was emotional as she could not read her face. I already talked with Abigail this morning, and we called the Royal Academy. Fortunately, the training for this year's selection starts next week. I even booked the flight for tomorrow, so you have time to settle in before the training starts. So today, don't do any chores. Just pack your bags. Okay. Finishing what she had to say, Diane approached Celia, lightly hugging her, even though barely any expression could be seen on Celia's face. In fact, she was stunned. She thought she had to wait for her sister to find her mate before talking to her mother again. But not only did she not hear anything regarding that, now she was even set to go to the academy, without any effort whatsoever to convince her mother. Something strange was truly happening. She felt like her mother wanted to get her out of the house. No, more precisely, out of the pack. For what reason? It was beyond her. Diane never showed such consideration to her before, even less to her wishes. But regardless of the reason her mother wanted her gone, it was of no importance to her, as it wasn't anything to harm her. As long as she could do what she had always wanted to, it was fine. She could finally begin the road towards her dream. All right, I am going to go pack, she stated quickly, then went away. She did not want her mother to change her mind. Mom, what just happened? Daniel had never been more surprised. His mother would never in her life do something like this. She would never change her mind so suddenly about something she had firmly decided on. And also it was the first time hearing that his sister's dream was to become a Watcher. He knew her dream had been to be a designer when she was little. She even had the skills for it. But a Watcher, a warrior. He had never even seen her shift. Was she capable of becoming the highest grade warrior there was? She was capable of almost everything she had set her mind to do. About this he was certain. The highest grades at school, the clothes, chores, but regarding physical strength he was not so sure. What do you mean, what just happened? Your sister asked me some time ago if I would let her join the 6-month training program for the exam that grants access to the Royal Academy's Watcher course. I felt that she was not strong enough, that she had no physical aptitude for it, and I initially refused her. that I thought about it some more. I mean, she always works so hard for all of us and never asks for anything. It would be horrible from my part if I do not grant her this wish. Diane explained, her eyes red and guilty. But I never heard her mention such a dream before. And a watcher. She has to be almost as strong as an alpha, if not stronger. Not to mention, I don't think there are any women watchers. Daniel stated, truly confused. No, there are not. We asked yesterday when we called, but there is no rule to not allow a girl to participate in the testing. As I said, I don't think she will accomplish anything, but there is also no downside about it. At most, she just sticks with the training and 6 months later she comes home and resumes her life. Or perhaps, interacting with so many people she could find her mate. Daniel thought about it and his mother was right. Even if he felt there was more to his mother's actions, there were no reasons for his sister not to follow her dream. He had thought that finding a mate might alleviate the burden on her shoulders. But realizing her dreams, without interference from Brianna and his mom, was also all right. Until her flight. See, Elias' time was full. Preparing to leave the next day for a trip that would last 6 months was not easy. Even for a quick run. Her brother was the one who went and bought other necessities she still needed. She was aware nobody had confidence in her, but the fact they let her go to the academy still warmed her heart. Perhaps her mother did not do it for an ulterior motive. She did talk with her some time ago. Her mother was not a fair person, but she was still her biological mother. Surely she would wish her well. After only a brief sleep, having most of the time occupied by the packing, she was driven to the airport by her brother and mother. Strangely, she had not seen her sister since yesterday at breakfast, but she could not blame her. Brianna had never been separated from her for so much time before, so maybe she was upset with her for leaving. She would call her later to sort it out. She mumbled to herself. She always took care of Brienne and sometimes she felt like a second mother to her. She would leave her alone for a while to sort her emotions. Brianna was already 20 years old. An adult. She needed to start taking care of her own problems. Take care of yourself. All right. And remember, we are your family no matter what. In 6 months, if you succeed in passing the exam and enrolling for the course, I will be proud of you. Otherwise, I will still be proud of you for trying. Her mother wished her, hugging her one last time. The long flight ended and she arrived at her destination's airport. Grabbing all her luggage, she waited at the entrance for the car to pick her up. Her mother told her there would be an escort from the academy. Soon, a black SUV stopped near her. From it, a middle-aged man descended, and scanning the surrounding, as he could feel her wolf scent, he came directly to her. Hello, I am the designated driver from the academy. Are you Miss Celia Blair? The older man asked respectfully.
She nodded and politely greeted him.
Smiling, he grabbed the luggage from her hand and helped her store it in the trunk. As the man took the driver's seat, she also ascended the car. In all his years of driving potential watchers and teachers at the academy, he had never seen a girl trying for the exam. Normally, a watcher was as strong as an alpha, and alphas were only males. He was intrigued. When he was asked to pick her up from the airport, was the person he had to drive a foolish one, someone who dreamed big, or did she have the actual capacity? Although he did not show it on his face, he was amazed. The person in front of him actually exuded the aura of a watcher, not a potential one. She felt like a person who had already completed the education and was in fact a full watcher. This happened because, unknown to Celia, she was starting to loosen her barrier and some of her actual power was now in plain sight. Experiencing the unknown pain for the last couple of weeks had taken its toll on her body. Plus, back at the pack she always tried to suppress her power as she could not be as powerful as the alpha. It would be seen as a challenge to his leadership. So from the age when she defeated the rogues she learned to create a wall around herself, hiding her power. This was also an advice Clarissa had given her, but now it was not necessary to do so. Driving for a few hours, She silently looked outside the car. It was the first time she was in human territory. It felt strange seeing in real life the images she only saw on AV. She was nervous about the future. She knew she was strong, but what if she was not strong enough? In complete silence, her mood kept swinging from joy to uncertainty and nervousness. Arriving at the academy, the driver stopped in front of its tall iron gates and waited to be given permission. A guard in a black uniform with quite a big build approached the car and, seeing the driver, nodded before opening the gates. The inside of the academy was huge, she thought. From the front gate to the building she was supposed to arrive at, it took another 20 minutes. On the way, different kind of huge buildings were aligned. There was a modern and old feel to them because of evident renovations. These were buildings that had been built hundreds of years ago. Not one was new. The layout of the academy had not changed since its construction. It was only maintained as the time went on and renovated as the technology evolved. Exiting the car, she was greeted by a small secretary who helped her with the luggage even though she refused. The secretary led her down the corridors of a building that seemed like a dormitory, while explaining the selection that followed. Unfortunately, we do not have a dormitory only for females, so you will have to live with the other male candidates. There are more than 10 this year. But don't worry, each of you will have separate rooms and bathrooms, so you will only meet in the common rooms or the kitchen. The meals are at 7 a.m., 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. We provide the cooked meals in the common room exactly on time, so please do not be late. Other than that, you can do what you want in the free time until the exam. You can also read about the selection process if you feel you do not understand it from me. She eloquently explained, then looked towards Celia to see if she had her attention, before continuing to inform. The exam begins at 8 a.m. on Monday, and it usually lasts until 1 month later, depending on the total number of candidates and the exam choices. Every year the tests are divided in 4 parts, each taking place on the first day of every week. Each will only take place if you pass the previous one. You will be tested on strength of your wolf, intelligence, capacity to adapt and handle problems, and finally combat power. The first exam is placing your hand on the seer and checking your wolf's power directly. Please do not worry, this exam is confidential, and the teacher attending to it has the obligation to keep the secret of your rank and power. He also has a curse placed on him, so any leak of a wolf's power to another person, other than the king or the council of 12, will result in his death. The second exam is a written test that will determine your IQ. Any watcher has to have extensive knowledge, which we will provide in the next 2 years, but we still have to know if one has the capacity to learn everything we will teach. The third exam will be liberal discussions with the teachers. You will extract a note from a ballot. On it, a situation will be written, to which you will have to give an answer on how to handle it. The final exam will take place only if you pass the previous 3. It will consist of free fighting with the other candidates. It will be a melee war. The last 10 men standing will become the new students. Please keep in mind that there are only 10 places. No exceptions are granted. Placement in the first 10 will result in your acceptance in the Watcher course, which will last 2 years, finalizing with your direct employment, she sternly stated.